53. We're going to start chapter 6. And essentially, we're just coming off this idea in chapter 5 that because the Orient Sof is Lamai Lamaila Adin Kates, it creates a scenario that that creates more and more of a yesh, right? As the light is coming away and hiding, that serves to actually reinforce the sense of self because it's hiding always from something. So to speak, the more you see it, the more it makes the entity feel like the Orient Sof is not there, and this is what creates a feeling of yesh. It can get to such an extreme that, like we saw in the Parsha yesterday, in the Haftorah as well, the Parsha says, Li yo'ori va'ani asisini, the river is mine and I made it. And in Avodas Hashem of every single one of us, this could also be a situation where you say, Kochi v'otzim yadi asali asachayos hazeh, that your own strengths made you this success, and you basically take all the victory for yourself and forget about Hashem. So he says, even though really with a light he's bonus and a realization that everything you have comes from Hashem, you can sort of undo this and bring in that level of Giloy. But because we have this Ruach Shtus, etc., you can get to such a scenario that you turn into this Paro situation. And all this is because the Orient Sof, that's Lamaila Lamaila, creates a scenario of Helem, the Ilwe, Lamaila Ad Ein Kate. It creates a concealment and greater concealment. Fine. Let's start with Os Vav. So we're saying Mamshech Ba'amaimer. He continues in the Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Kol Zehu V'Kocha Ein Sof Lasos Helmos V'Astarim Ke'ilah. This is all the power of the Ein Sof to create such concealments. The Keshem She's Pashtus Ba, or we did do this, but we'll just do another line, a little review. Just like these Pashtus of the Or, Ad Medrikas Ayosa Acharonos, just like now discussing the level of the light that goes down, the Orient Sof that's Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. Just like this is only in the power of the Orient Sof. Obviously, this is a wondrous ability for Hashem to be able to be His same infinite self, even in a place where it's in the most finite world. That like the blockages that we have do not block Him from being in that place, right? Shezeu inyan Orient Sof lamata adin tachlis. That's like the idea that even though He's hiding it from the student, the Rav obviously is still in possession of all the knowledge, and he's basically he's only hiding it from us, but he is fully in this place, and that's kind of a wonder that the Orient Sof can be in every place. Obviously, that is only in the power of God. We're saying now is Kamo Kain who kocha ein sof hamalim mastir. So too, don't think it's any less godly for the Ein Sof to conceal and make these riboy helamos v'hesterim, and make these unbelievable states of concealment. In other words, making the yesh itself, despite the fact that he is in that place and that's wondrous, but the fact that he makes it for us that he's not in that place and he's pulling away and creating all these deep levels of concealment, that's also only in the power of the Ein Sof to do. Ein Sof l'mayla adin kate, and not only is it in the power of the Ein Sof, it's even in the power. It's a higher quality of the Ein Sof to be able to actually conceal yourself than it is for the Ein Sof to be present in the place of that concealing, which is the lower power of the Ein Sof. Umamshich, and then he goes to explain that this is what it says in the verse. Achein ata kel mistater, right? This is also a nice niggin come down to this, but.
Higher power.
In other words, within the Orient Sof itself, we're talking about that which is seemingly going up, higher and higher, is somehow a more wondrous quality of Ein Sof than that which is going down. Seemingly, because what's going down is dealing with the lower quality of Hashem, right? In other words, just by the nature of the thing, the quality of the Ein Sof that's going up, why is it higher? Because it's unrevealable, right? So even though it's pretty amazing that you can reveal the Ein Sof, it can be revealed even in a place which can't really hold it. That's amazing, but it's not quite as amazing as there being an aspect of the Ein Sof that just can't even be revealed, right? So, and that's actually what creates the Yesh. So this is also only in the power of the Ein Sof to be perpetually unseen. And we're saying all this is going to be learned from the pasuk, Achen ata kel mistate, right? Which means, yes, you are a God who conceals, a God of concealment. Kel mistate. Dezeh shemistaser beriboy helmos v'hesterim. This that you are concealed with all of these levels of concealment. Hu bechinas ata mamish. Go back to the verse. Ata kel mistate, right? Which means we're calling you the hiding God. Which means this level of being able to hide is actually a quality of you yourself. Ata mamish. Tekashem chesed kel kol hayom. So just like this pasuk, in other words, it says really three words which are going to be important. Ata kel mistate. Ata goes on Hashem's essence. Kel, what does Kel usually refer to? The light of the Ein Sof that's pouring out, right? Kel is in of Chesed. As it's known, the Shem Kel actually refers to the light that's associated with the sphere of Chesed. The Shem Elokim refers to the light which is associated with Gevura. So when you say Kel, you're talking about the Ein Sof that's basically Lamata Mata that can shine everywhere. And you're saying Ata Kel Mistater. The point we're trying to get out of this is that even the mistater part, which means the part that you are hiding yourself, is ata as well. Just like ata kale, just like kale is an aspect of ata. Meaning kale, your ability to shine infinitely, that is a pretty big deal that's coming from the essence. And we're saying, kashem shechesed kale kol hayom, just like chesed is kale, as the pasuk says, that basically God's kindness is all day long. The yom hu bechinas giloy, and we say chesed kel kol hayom. This is another indication that kel, the shem kel, represents chesed and revelation, because it says kol hayom in that pasuk, and day is referring to revelation. This is Hashem's ability to reveal Himself. So just like that is coming from Hashem, the kamosha giloy hu chesed v'shem kel, right? Just like the revelation is the chesed of Hashem and it's the name kel. Hine kamo kain. So too, the quality of concealing is equally from the level of ata. So just back to I don't know if it's making sense to you, but ata kel mistater, kel or Ein Sof revelation. Certainly that's ata, right? Certainly that's coming from you, because who can make infinite light? Also mistater, the aspect of Hashem which is concealing the light, is also from ata, right? Those two levels, kel and mistater, are both products of the ata. That's the point he's trying to make.
What's the ata?
Ata is you, like the essence of Hashem. The inyan bezeh, right? So the concept here is kafir shemavar kavod kedushas admor marshab, and there we have basically brought down pretty much the final Rebbe, because the whole Maimer he's talking about the Rebbe Rayatz. So if you remember last class, he's talked about the Rebbe Maharash, and now he's broken it down to the Rebbe Rashab, and he's effectively listed every Rebbe since the Baal Shem Tov now until the Rebbe Rashab. So he says, like the Rebbe Rashab explains, Nishmaso Eden ba'arucha behem shech samech vav and ayin beis. Oh, not such small things. He says, like he explains over there, ubakam makomos, and in many places, shekashem shakoach habli gevul, nimshach b'chinas bli gevul amiti. So he says, just like, so to speak, Hashem's power of bli gevul, which means his ability to shine infinitely and nothing can limit him and restrict him. And obviously that comes from Hashem's true power of unlimitedness. We're going to call the bli gevul hamiti. Kach gam koach hamagbil. So too, the power of that Hashem has to limit. V'gam koach hagevul shelamat mimenu. He sort of indicates in a line two interestingly, slightly different levels. What's the difference between koach hamagbil and the koach hagvul, which is lower than the koach hamagbil? Koach hamagbil and koach hagvul. What is magbil and what is gevul? What's that? Right, the power to limit, right? Versus the koach hagvul is the power to be limited. So he says the power to be limited is slightly lower than the power to limit. The fact that he can put a limit on things is already like sort of a koach that Hashem has, which is slightly different than his ability to present himself as a limited entity. Right? He also has the power of gevul, but he also has the power to magbil, to limit things. So he says, but just like the koach habli gevul, Hashem's ability to be infinite and unlimited and not be bounded comes from Hashem's true nature of his infinite self, so too his ability to be magbil and even gevul, his ability to limit things and to be limited. Nimshachim bebechinas bli gemulat amiti dafka. That too comes from his true unlimited nature, right? In other words, that not just unlimitedness is the product of Hashem's unlimitedness, but even his limit and his ability to limit is a product of his unlimitedness. Did you catch that?
So
We speak about this often, right?
the Ata is the Magabir, the El is
The kale. No, we're saying that mistater, right, is the quality of, which means the line means ata kel mistater means you are God who hides. We're saying the word for God there is really another way of saying chesed or day, which is revelation. So we're saying you are both revelation and concealment. Kel mistater. And now we're trying to say that it's just as much and potentially even more of a presentation of Hashem's unlimited power that he can limit things and even be limited himself. And the proof for this matter, that this is equally as godly and from the source, that it's known that every light and revelation, right? Every light and revelation, it's not possible for it to contract and limit itself. Ki'im me'ayin shenimshach ha'or ba'agiloi misham nimshach ha'kol letzamtzem lahagbil. But rather, from the place that is drawn the very light and revelation, it's from that same place that comes the ability to contract that light and to limit that revelation, right? So in other words, he who has the ability to shine is the same one who has the ability to hold back from that shine. It's not that the shining thing is self-limiting, because it's like a locomotive, it doesn't stop itself. You need to have another, just like you had the power to start the locomotive and create this amazing energy, right? The energy is running now on its own. You have to come from the same source and be the one who's able to stop that locomotive. It comes from the same source as the one who made it. So therefore, he's saying Adarabba, he said in the parentheses, in the brackets. Not only does the limiting power, like for example, the locomotive, the power to stop it from going 100 miles an hour, right? Not only is it also coming from the same source that sent it on its way, but Adarab, even more so, mitzad zeh behechrech lo moshe inyan mistater, we have to say that the quality of mistater, the limiting power, koach hagvul, magia be'ata, it reaches somehow into the ata, l'mayla yoser ma'inyan dekel. In other words, higher than the level of kale, which means the power of limitation inside of the essence has a higher source than the power of revelation inside of the essence. In Yanagila. And why? Because it's harder to stop a train or to make it disappear once you put it into the world, right? Essentially, this is a great. That's why we call it gevura, right? It means might. It takes a greater koach to undo something than to put it into place. Following? Maybe dugma. No. What do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't understand that. Take nothing and put something in there. How is that less impactful than once you already have something right now you're dealing with it already? And then you're moving around, you're actually touching on that actual stuff.
You're not just touching and moving around, you're making it not be. The tzimtzum basically undoes it. Right? So here, in other words, yes, it's an absolute miracle to make something from nothing. Right? But then now you have this thing something from nothing to just make it disappear is equally, and now he's saying not only equally, it's slightly more of a big deal. Because to undo its power requires that it overpowers the thing that's there already. Just like stopping a train in its tracks takes more energy than sending it, right? You need to put something that's able to to stop something going 100 miles an hour, right? And make it stop on a dime. You requires more energy than it did to send the thing in the first place, right? So, what's that?
Are you saying according to science like this?
I don't see how it's not. It's an amazing force to stop a moving force. You need more force than that.
Brakes and stuff.
You're talking about regenerative brakes?
Isn't it that the brakes stop the force, but they can never get more than they.
That's because you're talking about regenerative brakes. What about God?
Well,
He can stop the force completely, and he can stop the force from even being in existence, right? He can take the car and the driver and everything away out of existence, right? Without any brakes. with the koach of gevura, the koach of gevul, the koach to be magbil something. And that's the point. You can't even pull this thing off in actual human time because you need a force which is greater than we have. But Hashem can do it, right? He can undo the locomotive in its tracks.
I'm just saying, according to science nowadays, I thought there was like this whole concept of.
You're only pointing out the great wonder of Hashem, that we can't do it in science, right? The fact that Hashem can do it shows that the power of Gevul is greater than the power of revelation. We can't do either thing. We can't make something be there out of nothing, and we can't make something stop being there out of nothing. But at least we can see that stopping something from nothing is harder and takes more energy than sending something on its way. Because of the regenerative brakes muscle, which is great. I'm going to use that. Okay, but you see? Yeah, okay. Umevi bedugmaus umashalim kafisha inyan hulamata min atzimtzum ba'olamos. Actually, we just did that ourselves, right? He brings there the Frierdiker Rebbe examples and mashalim as this concept take place in other words, even lamata min atzimtzum in the worlds bekelim debiyah, lamata yoser bekelim datzilus. So basically explains that at the source of this matter, that at every place there's a gavor which can cover over the chesed. And as you take it higher and higher, you can get ultimately deep inside of Hashem's essence, that we said that there's something called the yecholes, which we spoke about before, which is Hashem's ability to either shine or not shine, right? And the fact that he has the ability to unshine something is this great power of gavur, the koach hamagbil. Yecholes laha'ir v'yecholes shelo laha'ir. At the end of the day, these two forces, right, which we see as either a chesed or a gevura, right, and it's like either the light or the vessel that's holding back the light, and they're like two forces that are working sort of in conflict with each other at every stage of the game, whether it's in the lowly kelim of your soul and your body, or it could be the higher kelim of the spheres of Atzilus, or it could even be the Or Ein Sof and then the Tzimtzum. They look like two opposing forces. He says at the source of the matter, they're really one thing, which is just called the Yecholes, Hashem's ability to shine, which is, or his ability to not shine. And the level of just mere ability, they're not two things. They're just, that's what we say. Hashem is essentially the Or Ein Sof, that's Lamai Adin Kates, and Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. And they're, but if he wants to express one or the other, then they look like they're two opposing forces. But at the end of the day, Hashem is just both of those things. He has that ability. And that's the point. That's Ata, right? Very good. The Kafishem B'Shav, and they're totally equal at that level. Okay, they're equal at the level of the Yecholes. When he reveals them, it turns out that the Koach of Gevul sort of pulls on a deeper, it reveals more of the Atzmus than the Koach HaBli Gevul when they come out. But in their source, they're basically equal powers. And this is why, because the Ata has this power of these two things, therefore, as soon as it sort of shines and comes out of the Ata, it becomes Kel Mistater, which is basically Lamai Adin Kates, Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis. It becomes like a two-directional light, which is now actually shining in both directions, which is simultaneously infinite light filling a space, and simultaneously a tzimtzum where there's nothing in that space, right? And they're both happening at the same time, as far as Hashem is concerned, as far as the Ata is concerned. And both of those things are ridiculous, supernatural powers, either to bring something into be or to make something not be. And that's why when we're trying to define the Or Ein Sof, we define it by these two totally polar opposite qualities, even though we're not saying that there's really two things there. It's just one thing. The Or Ein Sof is the revelation of God. And God in his essence is this Yecholis of two totally opposite powers. And therefore, when we define the Or Ein Sof, we don't mean to get into a duality, because there is no duality. It's both of these different qualities Hashem has happening at the exact same time. One is to be basically making there be something there, right? Because he's hiding. And one is that there is actually at the same time nothing there, because he is able to be fully expressed in a place where he's not experienced. So only what? These two parts of the Or Ein Sof, the one which is called low until no end, is a function of Hashem's ability to shine. Like we said, he has the ability to shine or to not shine. So his ability to shine shows up as what's called the Or Ein Sof, that's Lamata Mata, that no matter where you're going to show me some kind of a finite place, I'll say there's Or Ein Sof there because I can shine in every place. And the quality of what's called the infinite light going up is an extension of his power if he wants to not shine in his essence. His ata can be mistater. I'm not sure if you guys have this page yet. Maybe you do. Turning the page. 154. And this is his ability to basically conceal himself level after level after level. And that's what we mean when we say all of it together. Really, ata, you are both kel and mistater. Inside of the ata are these two totally conflicting and opposite powers, which are really you. It's your abilities. The ad shemistater become a kisuyim, become a klifin, Keturas about Shem Tov now, and here he comes back and quotes the beginning of the Mimer. And how much are you concealing yourself to the point that there's so many coverings and so many klippas and shells, like the Baal Shem Tov said, from Aleph until Taf, as we spoke about many times. And how does this concealment from Aleph until Taf play itself out in our life, in our avodah? That you can get to such a point that he's hiding inside of you to the point that you're like a paro, thinking and claiming that you made this whole thing happen. You're in charge, you're the boss. My strength and my powers is what's running my show. All that experience, it's not what you think. It's elukus. You're experiencing elukus at the level of even higher than the Or Ein Sof, as we said, because the power to be magbil and make you think that you exist actually comes from the inner dimension of the Ata. And if we can just break it down for a second, what's because we're just about finished the Mimer, what's like the global conversation that's going on here is that he's saying, going back to the Otzros, right? This treasure house that the king, which is Hashem, is willing to give out in a way of bizbuz, right? Just like let it go sort of casually into the hands of the simple people. This is a treasure that no one ever sees. And it's been like stockpiled for years and years and years inside of the treasure house of the king. What is that level, do we say? What is it that's called the Otsar, as far as the Mimer is concerned?
It's the power of Mstater. That it would be revealed, that it would be like hidden.
Hidden. So what's called Mistater? What's hidden? L'mayla Adin Kates. Right? So he's talking about when it comes to the actual treasure that Hashem is willing to give to us, what is it? It's the part of the Or Ein Sof that's l'mayla Adin Kates. It's the power to be hidden. It's basically the power of Hashem's gavul. The secret treasure that he's willing to give to us is that. What is that if you think about that? That's our realization that as yeshi as you get, all you're seeing is mamash, the infinite power of Hashem. That's like the gift that he's willing to put into the hands of every soldier because it's kind of a checkmate situation. No matter how lowly you become and how much you think you're paro, all you're seeing is more elokus, more ka'ata kel mistater, right? And so that's basically the big secret. That's the Hasidic secret that he's letting out of the bag. It's also, by the way, what is Hasidus really? What is Hasidus? You know, we learned it's Limud Torah. But what are you doing particularly? Are you learning about tefillin? You're learning about sipori maisios of the avos? What part of the Torah you're learning? You're learning primarily about the mitzvah of Achdus Hashem. That's really, there's a mitzvah that God is one, and you're supposed to meditate on this fact that God is one. And learning Hasidus is essentially the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem. Really, that's what it is. So why is what we're seeing here is, by the way, spoiler alert, the treasure that was hidden for all the years and the king would not let anybody see was obviously Hasidus and Chabad Hasidus, right? That's what it is. That's what he's coming to tell you. No one's ever seen it. It's the deepest of the deep. It's the crown of the king and so forth. We're finally getting it. It's getting into the hands not only of the Rebbeim, Remember, the Frierdiker Rebbe carried all these handwritten things in chests across the ocean. We're the first people, right, in our generation to actually have the generals put it into hands of the foot soldiers, and that's us. It never happened before in the history of mankind. So what is it that they gave us? This treasure of Chabad Chassidus. It's the Orein Sofas Lamaila Maila, which is the secret of Achdus Hashem. It basically takes away the whole concept of duality, where you might think that there's you having a relationship with Hashem, and he comes and he explains to you that as much as you are going to be you, and as much as klippa can be klippa, and as deep and dark as the concealment can get, it's just more mistater. It's more Orein Sofas Lamaila Maila in case when you can call that out. And say, who do you think you are? The more of a yesh you become, the more elokus you're showing me. It's basically game over. If you do that to yourself, how much of a paro can you get when you can point to your own yeshes and recognize that it's a huge revelation of God? It undoes the klippa in and of its own right. That's the winning of the war. What's that? Yeah. As he concludes the mimer, this ability to be a paro and think that you're running the whole world is actually only in the power of the Ein Sof to make you think that. Right? What in the world can make you feel completely independent, like you're a god? Only God can make you feel that way. It's only God's ability to actually hide himself to the point that you actually feel like a god, right? Because really the natural nature of the Orein Sof is that anything that comes into existence would have a natural feeling that its existence is predicated on a higher existence, which is predicated on a higher existence. In other words, all the other worlds besides ours feel that way. They're batul to Hashem because they realize that they're being enlivened at every second. To be enlivened at every second and to have this experience that you're 100% independent and nothing is making you is the koach of the Ein Sof that makes you feel that way. The Atzmus itself. Or Ein Sof Lamaila Arin Kains. And in the Ein Sof itself, which part? The one that's higher. Zion, tomorrow.